Portugal, the westernmost country in mainland Europe, was neutral in the war, and it became a transit point for tens of thousands of Jews fleeing the Nazis. On May 24th, the Rebbe and the Rebbitzin received Portuguese transit visas, allowing them to pass through Lisbon en route to America. With all the government papers finally in hand, the couple needed to arrange the last necessary item: tickets to America. Together with several hundreds of others heading out of the war zone, most of them Jews, the Rebbe and Rebbitzin boarded the steamship Serpa Pinto from Lisbon, Portugal. The Rebbe and Rebbitzin were saved from the horrors of the Nazis and their allies, which would eventually take the lives of over 6 million Jewish men, women, and children. After a 12-day voyage across the Atlantic, they finally stepped foot on U.S. soil, arriving at Pier 8 on Staten Island. The ship's manifest lists the hundreds of passengers that arrived that day. Name of passenger: Schneerson, Mendel. Occupation: Rabbi. Race: Hebrew. Place of birth: Soviet Union, Nikolaev. Passage paid for by parents-in-law. Destination address: Joseph Schneerson, 770 Eastern Parkway, New York. Marks of identification: wears a beard.
I was standing with my father, Olav Sholem, upstairs in Gan Eden HaTachten, ready to go in to the Frierdige Rebbe for Yechidus. Because on that night, on Chof Sivan, I officially became a Talmud in Tomchei Tmimim. As we were standing outside in Gan Eden HaTachten upstairs to wait to go in, Rabbi Jacobson, Olav Sholem, came out from the Frierdige Rebbe, and he goes over to my father, and he says, Ramordche, der Rebbe hat gesagt, at die Yeshiva soll rausgehen mit Kabelponim sein mein Nedim. Mein Nedim ist Klar Shas, Teusvis Rosh in Ran und alle chassidische druckte Svar.
A ferry took them to Manhattan, and from there they were driven to 770 Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, finally reunited with their illustrious father. The young yeshiva students anxiously awaited their first glimpse of the Rebbe's children.
I remember very clearly how when the cars pulled up in front of 770 and the Rebbe's and Dina, the Chomadina, got out of the car and also, and of course the Rebbe's and Chaim Lushke, and how the Rebbe came out and they walked up the steps to 770. As soon as we saw them, because our class was right by the windows, so understandably that we went over to the door, which opened up to the main hallway over there, and we stood there, and as he came in, so we gave him shalom.
L'chaim, l'chaim. Dear Chassidim, dear Talmidim, how special it is to spend these few minutes with you and share a few special points and Farbrengen about the special, awesome day of Chof Ches Sivan, the day the Rebbe, our Rebbe, and Rebbitzin came to America. Where were they coming from? They were coming from a war-torn Europe, where the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, were on a rampage, already trying to take over Europe and killing Yidden And the Rebbe, Baruch Hashem, with Nisim Beniflois and a help from many different individuals, was able to arrive at America. Now, just to think about this a second, what was going on and what was the Rebbe doing, I want to share with you a little map, if I may, and you will see what was going on then. So in front of me, you see on the map, you could see right now, we have Germany. At that time, the Nazi party in Machshemam was the power, the army, the party in power, and the person that was in charge, I won't even mention his name, was on the rampage to conquer Europe, and he had another agenda that wasn't hidden, that he wanted to kill out Klal Yisrael or Chmon Litzlan. First, he went to Poland where there were so many Yidden there, and then from Poland, he took over France. And at that time, you have to remember the Rebbe, after getting married, moved to Germany to spend some time in Germany and learning and davening, and then he was also in the university there. And then when the Nazi party came into power, the Rebbe left Germany and went to Paris, to Sorbonne, and again, of course, with davening and learning and unbelievable things that we only know now from different people of the Mesiras Nefesh and helping other individuals of the Mesiras Nefesh that the Rebbe had at that time for mikvah, for every single koitz, every single detail of halacha, even to get a esrig that was from Italian esrig. They ever went on Mesiras Nefesh to go to Italy to get esrogim, the best quality esrogim. Matzahs, every single mitzvah the Rebbe did an unbelievable hiddur. All the time when the Rebbe was in Europe. And when the Nazis took over France, the Rebbe, they only took up the northern part, the top part of France. So the southern part was not under their direct occupation. So at that time, the Rebbe was first in Nice. You see Nice in the bottom of France, the southern part of France. You can see Nice. The Rebbe spent 9 months there. And at that time, he was promised that he's going to get visas to come to America. And the Rebbe got wind of it that the embassy there and the consulate is not going to produce it, and the Rebbe went from Nice to Marseille. And once the Rebbe got his visa to come to America, it was at that time he was able to get to, he had to go through Lisbon, Portugal. Lisbon, Portugal. You see that it's from Marseille to Lisbon, Portugal is over a day's travel by train. So the Rebbe traveled to Lisbon, Portugal, and he was about to go on the ship, and he got a telegram from the Frierdiker Rebbe. Don't board the ship. Think about this a second. Think about this. You know that Europe and the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, are after every single Yid, and it's dangerous. You know that every single ship that goes into the water, this might be the last ship. And you finally, after weeks and months of trying, finally get this visa, and you have a ticket to go on the boat. You don't know if you'll get another ticket. And the Rebbe is told, don't go on the boat. And you know what the Rebbe did? He did not go on the boat. There was no questions. There was no second guessing. The Frierdiker Rebbe said something, that's how he conducted himself. It was later found out that that boat was actually taken over by the Italy, by the Italians, and they actually took all the people from the boat and kept them hostage till after the war. So you can imagine what would have happened if the Rebbe went on that boat. The Rebbe would be still stuck in Europe. Whoever knows what would have happened then. But now the Rebbe lost those 2 tickets. How is he going to get up? How is he going to get to America? So there was a chassid, the Bestritsky family, that had 2 tickets for their family that could not get visas from France to Portugal, which Rebbe was in Portugal, so they gave those 2 tickets. The Rebbe went on Yud Zayin Sivan. The Rebbe was actually 1-2 days in Portugal. The Rebbe went on the ship. Now think about this, I just pointed out. The Rebbe spent a lot of time, or maybe not a lot of time as years, but days, weeks, months. And I just share with you all the things the Rebbe did in Europe. And it wasn't just things the Rebbe did. It wasn't that, by the way, the Rebbe was there. When the Rebbe was someplace, the Rebbe was turning over that place. The Rebbetzin, Chaim Mushka, told the Shluchim to France that wir haben geackert und gesät. We plowed and we planted, that you should be able to harvest all the work that we did in the places where we are. And even in Portugal, where my friend right now, Rabbi Eli Rosenfeld, is a shliach, the Rebbe wrote a reshima. He was there for what? 2 days, and the Rebbe wrote a full reshima about what? About Mashiach coming. That the Gemara tells us that Mashiach will come when there will not be a fish for a certain disease. And the Rebbe gives a whole lengthy beer, al pi chassidus, al pi nigla, very, very deep ideas about things. L'zakri, l'schus, l'chayiv, if Yidden are zeichod, Yidden are chayiv. But the point I'm trying to bring out is wherever the Rebbe was, it wasn't, by the way, I have to go here, I have to go there, or else I won't be able to survive. Where the Rebbe was, the Rebbe had ge'akert, the Rebbe plowed, the Rebbe had gezeit, the Rebbe planted. This was things that the Rebbe was accomplishing. But then came the day. The Rebbe left Europe. It wasn't safe. The waters going from Portugal to America, the Atlantic Ocean, was very dangerous. You had the U-boats of the Germans, Yamach Shemam, that were doing terrible things and sunk many boats. Miraculously, on Chof Ches Sivan 1941, Tov Shin Aleph, the Yoim Geula, the Rebbe came to the shores of America. Unbelievable. At that time, the Frierdiker Rebbe sent shluchim to go greet the Rebbe. Now, what was the special boat the Rebbe went? I just want to show you the boat. This is the boat, Sorpa Pinto. This was a boat that was from a certain company that was officially able to ride the seas of Atlantic Ocean, and they brought many Jews back to safe land. So this is the boat the Rebbe traveled for those 11 days. And this was the boat that finally came to the shores of America. And at that time, the Rebbe sent the Eltere Chassidim, the Chshuvim of the Chassidim, and said, the Rebbe, you want to know, I'm wanting you to go greet the Rebbe. Who is the Rebbe? The Rebbe is somebody that every night says Tikkun Chatzois. He's Baki and Bavli, Yerushalmi, Rosh, Rif, Ran. And the Rebbe is buckling the whole Likkutei Torah with all the ayins. It means when you learn Likkutei Torah, it says, ayin, look up this sefer, look up this sefer. The Rebbe knows all those places by heart. This is who the Rebbe is. And they greeted the Rebbe. The Rebbe came to 770. That's where the first place the Rebbe went was 770. And in 770, the Rebbe didn't see the Frierdiker Rebbe the first day, probably because this was a very special thing. It was too emotional. And the Rebbe said Hagoimel on Thursday. It came Monday, the Rebbe said Hagoimel on Thursday. And then on Thursday night, they asked the Rebbe to Farbrengen. First, the Rebbe said Farbrengen after he says the bracha of Hagoimel. The Rebbe said the bracha, the Rebbe, that Kriyas on Thursday morning, the Rebbe Farbrengen that night. And the Rebbe Farbrengen, and the Rebbe didn't just Farbrengen. The Rebbe, when he Farbrengen, he asked Bachrim their names, and he made connection with their names. And Nigla and Chassidus and Mishis, he started with Abot Shichem Lahoidos. There are 4 people that have to say thanks to Hashem. They bring a korban toida. One of them is someone who travels overseas. They bring a whole beer up, Nigla, Chassidus. You could hear videos of the Bachrim that were there, that shared, that the Rebbe was Pasha going for hours with so much depth of Torah. It truly uplifted everyone there, and they saw that the Rebbe was something totally special, so special. And from that moment, there was an unbelievable derech eretz. Those that knew the Rebbe from before knew the Rebbe. Those for the first time, the American boys, the American Bacham Yeshiva, realized the Rebbe is something very, very special. Now the Frierdiker Rebbe says about the day of Chof Ches Sivan, that today, this day starts a Tnufa Chadosha, a new horizon, a whole new wave, a whole new development in Yiddishkeit. Began on Chof Ches Sivan. Let's think about this a second. On one hand, the Rebbe was a private person. He wasn't the Rebbe yet. But we know the Rebbe is geboren a Rebbe. A Rebbe is born a Rebbe. That means is that every single thing that transpired with the Rebbe is Negea, the Klal Yisrael, to every single Yid. So today's day is Noigea to every single Yid. And by the Rebbe, it's not something that you have to believe in a Munah. You have to have a B'tochin, and it's Noigea to every Yid. By the Rebbe, we see how it affects every single Yid on planet Earth and beyond. What do I mean? Because when the Rebbe came to America, the Frierdiker Rebbe instituted 3 moises. America's Li'anei Chinuch, Gahos, and Machne Yisrael. And each moisid had many unique things it did. Gahos, the Rebbe started printing Sifrei Chassidus, one sefer after another sefer with Mara Mekoimis, with each one should have Mara Mekoimis and should have indexes in the back. The Rebbe was very big into indexes in the back of the Svarim. If you're looking up an in, you should know where to look it up in the sefer. So many Sifrei Chassidus that weren't printed, people didn't have. So Pashut, people were able to start learning Chassidus. Yafutzum and Esech Chutza brought on a new level. Pashut learned Chassidus. America's on the Chinuch, the Rebbe was involved in Misibas Shabbos and programming that was release time and many, many different programs that were the Rebbe started overseeing with America Shlichus and different things that were already began from the Rebbe from that time. The Rebbe began at that time truly reaching out to city by city of America to see that Yiddishkeit should be strengthened. And the Rebbe said, this is Matan Torah on Chatzi Kador HaTachton. Yes, Matan Torah happened at Har Sinai. And yes, the Yiddishkeit flourished on that part of the world for many, many years. But now Yiddishkeit is going to flourish in America. And from America, it's going to go, in a sense, throughout the world as well. Because the Rebbe, where the Nasi Hadar is, Nasi Huakol, from there it reaches every single Yid throughout the world. So let's think about this a second. We are now celebrating this Shabbos, Chof Ches Sivan, the day the Rebbe comes to America, the day that the Rebbe empowers every single chassid to recognize that we have the ability and we have the responsibility to see to it that Yiddishkeit shouldn't only survive, but should thrive. So think about it a second. Each one of us, we're learning in yeshiva. We're in the 3rd, we're in the 4th, we're in the 5th, we're in the 6th, 7th, 8th grades of yeshiva. We're learning each day. How could I make this something real for me? How do I relate to it? So obviously, it has to mean by me that I should be firstly elated, elevated. I should be able to tap into the unbelievable joy and simcha of this special day. Niskorim v'na'asim. We speak about it. It's not only something of the past, but it's something of the present. That this Shabbos is a day of geula for every single Yid, every single Tomim, and every single Chassid especially. And it's a day that we can make Yiddishkeit real, not only in the things that are lofty or are holy on their own, but even the things that are low, in the lower parts of ourselves, in the places that we like to eat, we like to drink, we like to play, things that are not naturally special. We can make Yiddishkeit special there as well. And I want to share with you a few stories of people that I personally know, that are personally connected to me. I think these stories share with each and every one of us how the Rebbe not only empowered us, but and encouraged us, but uplifted us and brought us to be able to truly conquer the world and bring Mashiach. So the first story I want to begin with is one of my dear father-in-law, Rabbi Daniel Yitzchak Maskowitz. Here you see a picture of him. He was the head shliach for the state of Illinois after actually my great uncle, Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Hecht, both of which of them are of Aleim HaSholem, that Frierdiker Rebbe sent my great uncle in Tafshin Beis, 1942, and then my shver, who was a student of Rabbi Hecht, came in the 1976. And you see over here, so I want to share with you a story. The story what happened in Chof Shinun Beis. My Shver had many, many moistes that he opened in Chicago. And all those moistes, he was the man that was running them. Obviously, had many people working for him, but he saw to it that every moistes should flourish, should knack, should work unbelievably. But to do that is a lot of things, a lot of details that go into that, both physically and monetarily. And at a certain point, he felt that it's just too much for him. There's so much on his head and so much he's responsible for, he doesn't know what to do. So he only knew one thing. He knew that he is a chassid. He's a shliach of the Rebbe. So he is going to go to his Rebbe. So Shabbos, Parshas Lech Lecha. Erev Shabbos means Thursday. He took a flight, I believe it was Friday morning. They wrote a long, long duch, a pan, detail of what's going on in the Mises in Chicago and greater Illinois, what's he doing, what he's accomplishing. And at the same time, the great burden and the great responsibility and yoke and what he feels like it's getting to the too much. So he wrote this whole, I don't know how many pages it was, many, many pages, and he gave it into the Maskidus on Friday. And Moitei Shabbos, I believe, was when he received his answer. Now remember, in Chof Shinun Beis, not everyone got answers to their letters. Not everyone received a response to what they wrote, and especially so quickly. And what was the Rebbe's response? Listen to me, Rabbi Daniel Moskowitz, who just wrote to me a many lengthy, all the Baruch Shem brachas, but many, many challenges that you're having on your shluchas. What's my answer? This was the Rebbe's answer. Kiloshin parsha seinu, like the loshin, like the terminology in our parsha. Lech lecha, go out, go. And how the pasuk continues, va'ar eka, va'ar, and you'll see the Rebbe. That's the end of the pasuk. Niflaois bakoil. You will see. Make sure I got the loshin properly. Ar eka, and then in parentheses. Niflois bakoil. Wonders in everything was Chof Shinun Beis, which here Tehei Shnas Niflois bakoil. The Rebbe said, Lech lecha, go out, and you'll see. And the Rebbe put in parentheses Niflois bakoil. And the Rebbe said, Asker al hatzion, I will mention, I will bring all that you've shared with me on the Frierdiker Rebbe's by the oil. And my Shver shares with me when I spoke to him about this and all others. At that time, the Rebbe gave him the empowerment of Lech Lecha in a way that he didn't necessarily recognize within himself before. And he went out and he accomplished much more than he ever imagined. And any time he ever felt a challenge in his shlichus, he knew one thing, Lech Lecha, I gotta do it. I have to go out and I will accomplish. And that's what he did. And there's so many more stories to share about this, but I don't want to, the time is limited, so I have to keep it short. But someone might ask themselves a question. The Rebbe said, Lech Lecha. Maybe the Rebbe's like pushing you. Go, you got to do, you got to do. Is that the way the Rebbe's doing it? So I want to share with you another story about my Zayda, Rabbi Yaakov Yehuda Hecht. And many of you probably have seen in videos or pictures with the Rebbe. It was Chof Shem Zayin, probably one of the biggest Lag Ba'omer parades that ever happened. And at that time, it was like any big event, there's a lot of details they'll go into and a lot of pressures. My Zayda was feeling what they call under the weather, overburdened with a lot. And he wrote to the Rebbe that it's schwer for him. Okay, he writes it into the Rebbe and asks for a bracha. He asks the Rebbe for a bracha, that the prayer should be l'maylam, and I'm sure more than he ever imagines, and that he should be able to do what he has to do as the Rebbe's chassid. So now I'm going to show you a video. He goes over to the Rebbe after the Lag Ba'omer parade. He tells the Rebbe, thank you for schlepping me out of my areish schlepping, for schlepping me out, pulling me out of my place where I was feeling under the weather. The Rebbe says, areish schlepping, I pulled you out. Oiv koiv, and you see the Rebbe's holy hands go up. In other words, when the Rebbe helps a chassid, empowers a chassid, he doesn't just take us out of our problem. He doesn't only push us, you got to do. He lifts us up into a place that we're going to knack. We're gonna really do what we gotta do. This is now, I'm gonna show you the video. You can see it for yourself. This is the video where first the Rebbe thanks the children. Let's do this over here. One second, I have to share the screen.
And all the Bachim, we are grateful to you for making this one of the most gorgeous parades we have ever had, and I hope the Rebbe is satisfied.
Okay, now.
Especially the children, the boys and the girls. Bnei Avraham, Yitzchak, Yankel, Bnei Sora, Rivke, Rachel, and Leah.
And now you'll see my grandfather goes over to the Rebbe. And if you listen clearly, you'll hear the Rebbe say, Oy Choyben. See the Rebbe pick his holy hands and Oy Choyben. The Rebbe said again, Oy Choyben. Okay, so the Rebbe doesn't only help us and schlep us out, but the Rebbe truly lifts us up and brings us to a place that there's nothing that we cannot accomplish. There's nothing that we can do. There's nothing that we can bring as a reality to ourselves. May it be that I want to daven, I want to say brachas in the siddur, and I want to actually think what I'm saying. I want to do good in my learning. I want to have more Avos Yisrael, be considerate and nice to my friends in my class. Maybe to play with them. Maybe to help them learn. Maybe we'll help out them to share with them a snack that I just have extra of, where I'll give them my snack because I know he's hungry. Each one, just to be sensitive, to wish him a good morning, even if he's not in my class, but he's in my yeshiva. Each one of us has the ability to go out of what we usually know as what's comfortable and be sensitive and do better. And the Rebbe gives us the empowerment. And I know many of us will go in the next few days to the Rebbe's oil and are going to say to the Rebbe, I want to be a better chassid. Rebbe, I want to be yours. And you're going to say to yourself, is the Rebbe really empowering? The Rebbe going to really answer what I'm asking? I'm going to share with you a cute story that happened with me personally. It's a cute story. I call it a cute story. But it's true about every single time a chassid goes to the Rebbe. This story happened before I was a shliach. I was a shliach in my community in Prospect Heights. I was a shliach in yeshiva in Toronto. And I used to give a shiur every single Thursday to the guys on Balabatim and Amitzayimut from the Parsha. And I finished my shlichus in Toronto, at least in the yeshiva part. And I came back to New York, and I kept in touch with all the people, all the Balabatim that I knew in Toronto. And they called me saying one day they're coming to New York. So I said, of course, if you're coming to New York, you got to come to 770. We have to daven in the Rebbe's shul. I want to take you to the Rebbe's oil. Before the oil, we went to the mikvah. So they came. Their company is that they do marketing for companies on the internet. And one of their clients owns a limousine company. So they said, Mandy, don't worry. We'll have a car. This company is going to give us a limousine. So they pull up in front of 770 with a big stretch limousine, a big stretch limo. And we go in. So we go to the Rebbe in what we call in class. We just didn't go like small car. Chashiv a car, we're going with the 770, and they Farbrengen with me in 770. Then I took them, we went to the Rebbe's oil. They wrote a pan. As we leave the oil, somebody comes to us and says, can I get a ride with you back to 770? So I tell the individual, I would love to give you a ride, but I'm not going straight to 770. We're first going to the airport because these Balabatim are going back to Toronto. And only then was I going back to 770. It's not that much out of the way. It's in Kennedy Airport. If you want to take the detour, you're welcome to come. He said, okay. I asked the Balabatim if it's okay if they came with us in the car. He said, okay. So these two Bachrim come with us. They say, where's the car? So I said, come with me right here. And I showed them to the stretch limo. They start platzing. They start laughing. I said, I mean, a stretch limo is nice, but there's nothing to platz about, laugh about. He says, Mendy, you don't realize. Today, I told my friend, my chaver, I want to go to the Rebbe's oil. I want to daven by the Rebbe. So my friend said to me, on the way there, okay, we could catch a ride. You know, he's down in the corner, we'll get a ride. But how are we going to go on the way back? And he didn't want to come because he didn't want to be, he wanted to daven the Rebbe's oil and then come back to 7-7. He didn't want it to be that much longer. I told my friend, don't worry. The Rebbe is going to send us a stretch limo. And look what happens. Rebbe sent us a stretch limo. Now, this wasn't even in their plan, but this was something they said. And the Rebbe heard it, and the Rebbe sent it to them. They sent, I assume, he said it with sincerity that he's going to die, he's going to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe is going to take care of him. And how he's going to get back, it's going to go with a limo. And that's what happened. And that's what I want to share with each and every one of us today. Farbrengen together, that when we dedicate ourselves and we recognize that the Rebbe says that this day is something not only special for him, but for Klal Yisrael, that each and every one of us truly has the empowerment to make a change, firstly in ourselves, in each part of ourselves, to truly uplift ourselves, and then to our friends in yeshiva, our communities around us. Let's take the day of Chof Ches Sivan and dedicate ourselves, like the Rebbe says, you guys, we got to bring Mashiach, and let's bring him now.
B'shem kol na'ashach sidiv v'atmimim gute freund b'nei ubnei Yisrael b'chol asar v'asar seien sich alle bestattet von der Broche mit Schlichosayu kabdinen Menschen dem Reben sein gesund Poshet und Geruchtis und Gashmis und soll kommen bringe Babisch Mashiach lebate now.
Allen Samit. Wir verbinden sich allemal mit dem Tag, in welcher eine gute Sache passiert. Bis wann jetzt hat der ganze Tag wird angerufen, jedem Sackheit.
Vom Askirus von Raben soll gesund sein, hat mir gebeten, übergeben, also so wie die Konterreisen wollen bald umkommen, wird jetzt doch sein, ein Hefzig von der Erech, ein Viertelschar, und nachdem wird der Rebbe soll gesund sein, geben jeden einen bei jeder Akteusche dem Konterreis mit dem Geld auf Stocken.
Komur leiv, gewinnt mir sich in dem Keach von Jalchit Plissoye, und jem von Essen und Schmeiner bei bis die Gejula bepashtet, was abschatte sich Mirachit Pashtob, zusammen mit Schutischer Mikro, und dort der Jiden von Sedes erzähler.